Good evening from New York. I'm Chris Hayes. The country is still processing the testimony from last night's inaugural primetime hearing of the January 6th committee. And while we learned a lot last night, which we will take you through this hour, one major takeaway is something we've been repeating on this show for more than a year. Donald Trump attempted a coup. That was the front page above the fold headline of the New York Times today, the newspaper of record. You could read a similar sentiment on front pages of papers across the country. The Washington Post went with panel pins blame on Trump. The Orlando Sentinel's front page reads, January 6 panel pins plot on Trump. The Colorado Springs Gazette went with panel points finger at Trump. Even in Red Alaska, the Anchorage Daily News implicitly blamed the ex-president with an arresting headline, again, quote, an attempted coup. We have known the contours of Donald Trump's coup attempt for some time. And while many assumed we would get powerful new images from the insurrection itself, like the ones you are seeing on your screen right now, there was a sense of trepidation, I think partly born of what happened with the Mueller report, that after a year of leaks and countless tell-all books about the final days of the Trump administration, there might be just nothing left for the committee to reveal. Needless to say, that was not the case. In fact, people across the country tuned in huge, surprisingly huge numbers. At least 20 million people watched the 2-hour hearing last night. That's the Nielsen numbers. For context, that's on par with events like Sunday night football games or the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. That's big America watches kind of stuff. And the hearing also delivered in terms of what it broadcast. I mean, we on this show have been covering the insurrection, its aftermath, about as closely as anyone in the media. And there were still multiple brand new revelations last night that took us here on All In, our staff, by surprise. We were slacking the whole time. Is that new? Did we know that? Have we seen that before? There was the news that a Trump campaign lawyer named Alex Cannon told Chief of Staff Mark Meadows back in November, that Trump's claims of election fraud were bogus.
I remember a call with Mr. Meadows, where Mr. Meadows was asking me what I was finding and if I was finding anything. And I remember sharing with him that we weren't finding anything that would be sufficient to change the results in any of the key states.
When was that conversation?
Probably in November. Mid to late November. I think it was before my child was born.
And what was Mr. Meadows' reaction to that information?
I believe the words he used were, so there's no there.
There's no there in mid to late November from Mark Meadows. That is new. But knowing that fact did not stop Meadows from pushing Trump's big lie in public and in private for months as he helped enable the coup. Committee also revealed brand new testimony from Trump Attorney General Bill Barr and the president's own daughter, Ivanka, who both said they did not believe that Trump won the election.
I made it clear I did not agree with the idea of saying the election was stolen and putting out this stuff, which I told the president was bullshit. And, I didn't want to be a part of it. You can't live in a world where the incumbent administration stays in power based on its view, unsupported by specific evidence, that there was fraud in the election.
How did that affect your perspective about the election when Attorney General Barr made that statement?
It affected my perspective. I respect Attorney General Barr. So I accepted what he was saying.
Yeah, well, both those bits of testimony completely new. That was the daughter of the ex-president of the United States saying she agreed with Attorney Bill Barr that her daddy's claims of a stolen election were all BS. And today, on his weird off-brand social media website, Trump attacked Bill Barr and his own daughter, Ivanka. Quote, Ivanka Trump was not involved in looking at or studying election results. She had long since checked out and was, in my opinion, only trying to be respectful to Bill Barr and his position as Attorney General, parentheses, he sucked. Even though Attorney General Barr and Ivanka both knew the election was not stolen, we should keep in mind, they never used their platforms to forcefully say the election was free and fair. In fact, Barr's resignation letter in December 2020, in that letter, he endorsed the investigation into fraud he now admits was BS. Before last night, we had gotten contemporaneous reporting that Barr's own DOJ staff was concerned about Trump's coup attempt. But last night, the committee revealed exactly what Trump's son-in-law Jared thought of all the lawyers threatening to quit.
Jared, are you aware of instances where Pat Cipollone threatened to resign?
I kind of, like I said, my interest at that time was on trying to get as many pardons done. And I know that, he was always, him and the team were always saying, oh, we're going to resign. We're not going to be here if this happens, if that happens. So I kind of took it up to just be whining, to be honest with you.
Again, that was new. Jared Kushner just whining. Oh, there's a coup happening, and I tuned them all out. It's funny that Kushner mentions his work on pardons there, because another big revelation from tonight. Again, another one of those, wait a second, did we know that? We didn't know that. That was the multiple Republican congressmen, including coup plotter Scott Perry, Pennsylvania, who sought White House pardons for their role in trying to, well, we think, overthrow a free and fair election.
As you will see, Representative Perry contacted the White House in the weeks after January 6th to seek a presidential pardon. Multiple other Republican congressmen also sought presidential pardons for their roles in attempting to overturn the 2020 election.
Now, Perry said today that that was a lie. I think he called it a soulless lie. I mean, I guess we'll find out, right? I think we're going to get to the bottom of that. Now, I'm no lawyer, but it seems like you would probably only seek a pardon if you think you're going to be charged with a crime or did something wrong. Now, the committee did not just reveal brand new information. It also fleshed out previously reported incidents, like the meeting which precipitated the now infamous Trump tweet, where he invited supporters to a wild day in D.C. on January 6th.
On December 18th, 2020, a group including General Michael Flynn, Sidney Powell, Rudy Giuliani, and others visited the White House. They stayed late into the evening. We know that the group discussed a number of dramatic steps, including having the military seize voting machines and potentially rerun elections. You will also hear that President Trump met with that group alone for a period of time before White House lawyers and other staff discovered the group was there and rushed to intervene. A little more than an hour after Ms. Powell, Mr. Giuliani, General Flynn, and the others finally left the White House, President Trump sent the tweet on the screen now, telling people to come to Washington on January 6th. Be there, he instructed them. We'll be wild.
Committee also provided new perspective on events during the insurrection, like, for instance, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff testifying that Vice President Mike Pence, who was actively under siege in the Capitol, was, we think, it appears, basically running the country at the time.
There were 2 or 3 calls with Vice President Pence. He was very animated, and he issued very explicit, very direct, unambiguous orders. There was no question about that, and he was, and I can get you the exact quotes, I guess, from some of our records somewhere. But he was very animated, very direct, very firm.
By contrast, here is General Milley's description of his conversation with President Trump's Chief of Staff, Mark Meadows, on January 6th.
He said, we have to kill the narrative that the vice president is making all the decisions.
Yeah, golly gee, where would that narrative come from? The reason Pence was making all the decisions is because Trump steadfastly refused to stop the insurrection. It was what he wanted to happen, which we already knew from past reporting, but Congresswoman Cheney laid it out perfectly and with this new detail.
President Trump believed his supporters at the Capitol, and I quote, "We're doing what they should be doing." This is what he told his staff as they pleaded with him to call off the mob, to instruct his supporters to leave. You will hear testimony that, quote, "The president did not really want to put anything out calling off the riot or asking his supporters to leave." You will hear that President Trump was yelling and, quote, "really angry at advisors who told him he needed to be doing something more." And aware of the rioters' chance to hang Mike Pence, the president responded with this sentiment, quote, "Maybe our supporters have the right idea. Mike Pence, quote, deserves it."
That made me sit up. The president said his own vice president deserved to be lynched by the mob because he would not go through with the plot to steal the election. That is a summary of what we learned from one night of these hearings. I suspect there's still more we will learn.